Hello my fellow freedom builders and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to look at some dividend aristocrats, which, if you don't know it already, are stocks that have been paying out rising dividends over the last 25 years. There are not many among them, and in these time of crisis they are getting fewer and fewer, since a lot of the large old companies are trying to slice down on the dividends because they're going to need some cash with the situation we are in. So today we're going to look at the dividend aristocrats, and we are only going to look at the ones that actually have some value. And now, how am I going to evaluate if they have some value? I'll tell you that just after you hit the subscribe and the like button. Can you do that now? Just the buttons right beneath the video. Thank you very much. And then we will go to the platforms I'm going to use today. Today I'm not going to use technical analysis. I am going to use the platform Fast Graph. I'm not affiliated with them, but it is a very neat tool and it's not that expensive. They have two different price tags, I think. One is the basis version, and what I have here is the extended version, because in this version I can go in some predefined portfolios they have made. And in here we have the S&P Dividend Aristocrats 25 years, as you can see here. So that is the list I have been scanning through. There are a large number of different companies in here. And then when I have found the good candidates, and I have found 8 of them for you, I am going to take them on a little trip through the Stockopedia, which is one of the platforms I am affiliated with. There's a link below the video if you want to take a look at that. And that is a very neat platform to sort out very quickly if this is a good quality stock. So I can tell you first what I'm not looking for today. And to that I have found Clorox, which is actually a very good company, and I was making an analysis of it down here, saying that it could grow. That was before the entire crisis came up here, and that had helped them a lot. But this is what I'm not looking for, because what we can see here in the Fast Graph platform is, if you haven't heard it already, when I've told about it in another video, we can see their historical average PE ratio, and we can see their historical average earnings growth here. And what is nice to see is when a stock has been oscillating around one of these or both of these lines, and then all of a sudden is below the 2 lines, or at least one of them, meaning that they are a bit below what the historical development in the earnings have been. In this case, with Clorox, you can see that the black line here, which is the stock price, has shot up completely to the moon here, and the earnings has not shot up in the same pace. And that is one of the very quick ways I'm trying to evaluate if there's some value here. If we are down below here, you can see that the earnings and the normalized PE ratio here are a bit faster growing than the price. So down here we have some value. It doesn't mean that a stock can grow in price up here, but then they are mostly growing on other factors than value. It can be a hype in a specific sector or in a specific industry. It can be some new, if it's a pharmaceutical company, then maybe they're coming up with some drug and people are expecting them to get an FDA approval or something like that. But normally they are not growing up here due to a good solid old-fashioned value. So that is the first thing I'll take them through, and this one does not apply. I'm not looking at Clorox today. Another thing that I don't want to see, I can give you an example here from the Caterpillar. Several of you have asked me about Caterpillar. Just a second. Fast Graph sometimes can be a bit slow to load the new charts. But another thing I'm not looking for is this scenario where the earnings and PE ratio looks like some sort of whipsaw here, because then it is hard to say if it might be value down here, but what if the earnings tumble down again? Then the price might follow. So what I'm looking for is good solid growth in earnings growth, and then a price that is below that in percentual development. All right, so let's get moving. We have 8 candidates, and I am going to go through them very quickly today. So I'm not doing some quantitative or qualitative deep analysis of them. This is simply to see, if you want to get into some of the dividend aristocrats, which of them are actually of good value when we look at the fast graph, and have a quick look in the Stockopedia to see if they fulfill our normal criteria. All right, so let's have a look at them. The first one in our list is ABBV, and that is the ABBV, and as you know, if you've seen my older videos, that is a stock that I've actually rated some months ago as one of my best buys in my US portfolio. You can see that their growth has been very nice. These are the predictions for the future. They have nicely growing dividend, if that is what you're going for. You can see up here that they have dividend yield at 5.2. I must say here that these dividends, I'm not completely sure how often Fast Graph are updating the information, but I have a feeling that it is quite well updated. But that might be one of these that are dropping out of the dividend aristocrats if they are announcing some sort of cut in dividends. But that is in this turmoil time something that can happen. But the ABBV is absolutely one of my favorites here. It's a very low, very far below the overall development in PE and growth in adjusted earnings here. And if we have a quick look at it over here, just a quick tip to those of you using Stockopedia. Sometimes if you're writing the ticker symbol here, it can't find it, and that is because it helps if you write it in capital letters. I have no idea why that's important, but that took me a little while. As we can see here, the ABBV, excellent quality in earnings, value quite high here. It's not my main value indicator, but of course it is nice if it's high. The momentum in price and good news here is excellent, and they have a stock rank of 98 here. You can see that the PE ratio great, the PEG ratio low. We can go down to see the price to free cash flow, EV to EBITDA looks good. Petrosky score nice. What I do like to see is a good steady growth in earnings per share and in free cash flow. We have both of them. And now that it is a dividend stock, we can see here that they're paying out these around 5%. I do like to see some good dividend cover, meaning that they're not paying out too much of their earnings per share in dividends. And they have been a bit low the last couple of years here, but in the estimates they are getting up around 2, where I like to see them. They also have an okay interest coverage, meaning that they can pay their debt, or at least the interest on the debt, with their earnings. So this is absolutely a good candidate if you want to get into one of the dividend aristocrats. All right, let's look at the next one on the list. The next one is ADP, Automatic Data Processing, and as you can see here, over the last 10 years, it has been hovering around mostly the normal PE ratio here, as you can see. And you could say that it has grown way faster than the earnings down here, and that is correct. But what we need to see is which of these lines, if not both, that they tend to oscillate around. And right now, at least since 13, 14 here, the last 7 or 8 years, it has been using these PE line as the main support, if you could call it that. And right now it has dipped below that. So that actually means that I evaluate that this is in kind of a value territory. We can see that there's estimated a slight drop in earnings, but after 2020, the earnings are back up. And I must say that in a year like this, a drop like this is not a terrible drop. So let's have a look here, because this kind of meets our criteria here. And let's just look at the ADP here in the Stockopedia. As you can see, they have a splendid quality in earnings, okay momentum, okay stock ranks, and nothing wrong there. PEG ratio is not too high. If you don't know the PEG ratio, that is the price earning divided by the estimated growth in earnings, and that tells us a bit about if we are paying too much for future growth. I do like to have this around 2, but 2.5 is okay. We can see that the quality down here, return on capital, return on equity is great. The Petrosky score is great. The earnings per the earnings per share growth is great here. The free cash flow, splendid. They do have a nice growth in the dividend yield. Right now it is around 2.5%, and they are a bit below 2 on the dividend cover, but that is okay. Debt is not terrible, and they can pay their interest with no problem whatsoever. So again, ADP is absolutely one of the dividend aristocrats that we could take a look at. All right, back to the next candidate. The next one on the list is Aflac, AFL. And as you can see here, it has also used the PE ratio line to oscillate around, and every time it has been way below it has actually been a great time to buy, where you could get some good, decent annual returns down here. So right now we are way below the line here. We have a dividend yield just above 3% here. So basically it looks good, and the growth rate also is decent. It's not that it is a huge growth rate, but the price has dropped way lower than this tends to say it should. There can of course be a ton of reasons. Be careful not to confuse value with cheap, because just because a stock is cheap doesn't mean that it is good value. And of course this indicates that it could be good value, but if we're looking over here in the Stockopedia, let's just say here, we can see that the quality in earnings are actually not that good, and it is dropping as well as the momentum. This one tells us that the value is okay. That's also what we saw in the fast graph. But if we're looking at the PEG ratio, it actually shows us that 8.2 in PEG ratio. It shows here that it's way worse than its industry, and that than the overall market. Earnings per share growth is only 0.9%. So this is actually one of the reasons why I would probably not choose Aflac as one of my candidates. We can see here that return on capital 2.7, not amazing. Return on equity, okay. Petrosky score is on the low side. The earnings per share is growing, not very fast. If we look at the free cash flow, it's actually dropping a bit. We don't like that. We do have around just above 3% in dividend, and with a great dividend cover, no problem there. And there's also an okay interest coverage. Net debt is growing. This would not be my favorite, not at all. But it is maybe on the potential list. But I would say that we have some stronger candidates in our field today. The next candidate is Cardinal Health, CAH. And as you can see, very nice growth rates. Since 14, when it was up at a very overvalued point here, it has been a bad investment. It has dropped a lot, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But it has pretty much dropped for 6 years now. And right now it is kind of leveling out down here. They're paying 4% in dividend, and they are showing some decent growth here. And if they could go back to these areas, there would be some very, very good growth to get here. If we look at them in our database in here, Cardinal Health, you can see them here. That they have 64 in quality, that's great. Momentum 98, perfect. Stock rank 89, that's very good. PEG ratio 1.3, I think this is actually showing some good signs. 5 in Petrosky score, we do like them at 6 or above, but that's how it is. Now, the earnings per share is not very pretty, and that's one of the reasons why I might just want to see if the earnings estimates for 2020 is actually fulfilled. The free cash flow is also a bit bumpy, but 17 was absolutely the worst year here, and it is showing some okay strength here. We can see, and that's definitely something I don't like, we can see that they're growing their dividends even though they have absolutely no cover for it on several years here. And of course we can see that they can pay it with their free cash flow, but their earnings per share can simply not justify this sort of dividend. And that is one of the reasons why I would keep this one on the bench for now, even though it might be good value. This is not good signs. I do like, if I'm going for the dividends, to see that it can easily cover the dividends with at least 2 here in dividend coverage. There can be a lot of reasons for this, and I'm not going in depth with this, but this is just a quick scan, and I have 8 candidates, and I absolutely do have some favorites here. And I can say that this one is Cardinal Health is not one of the favorites right now. Now, the next on the list, I'm not actually even sure how it is pronounced. Is it CHOP? I think it is CHOP. That's what I'll call it here. But as we can see here, they have had a bit bump down in the earnings a couple of years back, but right now they're growing nicely. They have been cut completely down almost to with 50% here right now. So you should think that this would be kind of a bargain. Dividend yield around 3%. So this actually tells us that the price, at least compared to this visualization, is way too low. But what about when we go over and look at it here in Stockopedia? We have it here. Let's just have a quick look. Now, we can see the quality in earnings is only 44, and I do like that to be up around 70. Value is okay, but that is looking at looking back in time here. Momentum is 68, almost okay, but has dropped quite dramatically with a score of 13 over the last month here. PEG ratio is decent. Return on capital 2.6, return on equity. Now I think we can find better candidates here. The earnings per share is kind of bumpy and not really growing like I want to. Free cash flow is looking decent, and the dividend coverage is also okay, absolutely on the good side of 2 here. They have quite a lot of debt, but they can easily cover the interest. So again, this would not be my favorite candidate, not at all. Just looking at the numbers here, this would not be the one I would go for first. So on to the next candidate. And here we are back with one of my old candidates from the Stock of the Week videos, General Dynamics. And what I said at that point, I was just back watching my old video here in the weekend. And what I said back here when I analyzed it was that I actually saw some good potential in it, but I would like it to drop a bit in price so that we had some more cushion upwards here that we could work with. And now General Dynamic has really been chopped down here and is in a very good territory. There is a drop in earnings here, but again, almost all companies have that here in 2020. But then there are estimates of great growth again. So let's have a look at it a bit more in depth with the fundamentals here. Let's see, General Dynamics, and of course this is one of the stocks that some people are taking away due to the ethical part of it with the weapons manufacturing and so on. But we can see the quality of the earnings is great, momentum is great, value is actually okay, and overall stock rank 88 is very good. PEG ratio below 2, that is very good. We can see that the normalized earnings per share, great, going up like we want to see it. Free cash flow, that is a bit more choppy, and that is something that we should look into. Of course, that's also because it was quite high here in 17, but that would be something I would look into here. Great growth in their dividend, around 3% here, and with a great dividend cover. Perfect. They're taking on some debt and they have an okay interest coverage. So definitely one of the stocks that could come on my list as one of the dividend aristocrats that I might consider buying into. The next candidate is Lowe's, and that is actually also one of the earlier candidates for my Stock of the Week videos. And when we look at Lowe's here, they have been down. I actually said exactly the same with Lowe's as I did with the GD, General Dynamics. and that was that I would like to see a drop in price. And it has been oscillating primarily around the PE ratio line here for the last 10 years, and right now it has been down. We could have made a bargain down here, but that was of course hard to say, to tell if things were tumbling down from here. But right now it has been it has gotten a very good bounce up here, but it is still below the line, and I actually think that there is a bit more to get here in lows. But let's just see in the analyze section here. Let's just have a look. Because I can't spell, just a second. Here we go, and that's again is because Stockopedia is a bit picky as to how you write it with big and large and small letters here. But when you see when you look at lows here, they have excellent quality in earnings, excellent momentum. Value is a bit low, but then again, I'm not looking too much at Stockopedia's value score here. 89 at the stock rank, that is great. 1.8 in PEG ratio, also what we like to see. As you can see, return on capital, return on equity, and operating margins are absolutely excellent. We have a 6 in Petrosky score, that is what we like to see. Earnings per share going up just as we wanted to see. Free cash flow a bit more bumpy. 2020 here shows a hit down, and that can be due to the overall situation. We'll have to look into that. Dividend yield just around 2%, growing nicely and with a very good dividend cover. No problem there. Taking on a bit more debt. It is yellow here in interest coverage, so I would dive a bit into how much debt they have, why they're taking it on, and if they can use the money in the best possible way. So the debt would be one of the places where I would look a bit into if I were to take a long-term position here. But absolutely one of the solid candidates as well. Now, the last on our list today is a REIT, meaning that is a real estate fund here. And this is with the ticker symbol O, Realty Income. The problem with these REITs is that they are hard to put into my normal standard templates here. As you can see, the adjusted earnings, it looks great. It has been oscillating around the blue PE line, but actually the adjusted earnings, when it comes to REITs, we should actually maybe more go down to evaluate the free cash flow to make sure that this looks great. And I must admit, it actually looks quite nice. Every time it has been good value. It has been down here, hovering above the orange line here. And we are down there right now. Now, the problem with the REITs right now is that the entire real estate market in the United States, due to this crisis, is some kind of a minefield, because as we can see, we have to dive into the individual REITs to see how they are exposed to the markets. And I know that Realty Income Corp here, they are quite diversified in this area, but we need to realize that the property niche right now is somewhat troublesome. We can see here that the quality of earnings and momentum and so on is not that good, but then again, these REITs are not really easy to put into my normal templates. What I can say is that right now I would personally not touch the REITs, because I'm not clever and informed enough to say which one of these companies will be hit the hardest. Because as we saw the other day, for instance, JCPenney are going out of business. They have 850 stores that are all rented, all of them at something like 10,000 square meters on average, around 100,000 square feet on average. And these are all rented, meaning that even one big company that is renting to JCPenney, or a lot of small companies, are all of a sudden without one of their very big customers. And if some of these REITs are heavily exposed to some of the businesses, let's say it's retail that is hit very hard, well, then they can easily take a very big hit here in this crisis, and I am not the one to tell you because I'm simply not skilled enough to analyze the REITs. So I'm not the one to tell you which one of the REITs are the best exposed to the current situation if you want to get into this entire REIT business. So I'm staying out of it right now. It is one of the companies of the Dividend Aristocrats showing some decent value here, but I simply cannot read out of this and out of the overall situation how they are exposed and if it is too risky business. So I am mostly investing from the concept of better safe than sorry. So I'm picking some of the businesses, some of the niches that I can quite easily see through, that are quite transparent to the current situation. Now, a little add-on here, and that is because some of you have asked me about it. These were the 8 candidates, so you can pick and choose which one you like. This is not financial advice in any way. I have said what I liked, which of these ones I like the most, so there's no doubt about that, but you should also make your own decisions. But one thing that I am doing, and that is, I'm not doing it so much in my Danish account right now at least, but I am doing it on my dollar account I have with Interactive Brokers. I am using options, and I know for many of you, at least many of you, and if you're sitting in Denmark, many of you, options are a complete uncharted territory. But it is a bit more well known in United States and several other countries. And what I am doing, to those of you that knows a bit about options, is that when I'm buying these, for instance, the ABBV that I actually have in my portfolio right now, I am using the strategy called covered calls, meaning that I'm buying the stock and then I am selling call options right now. I'm selling the June options, call options above the price, to get some more juice out of the price. I will make some videos about this covered call strategy in a later video, but for those of you already doing options and maybe covered calls option strategies, then I'm actually buying these. It could be some of the Dividend Aristocrats. It could also be other good value candidates starting in an upwards trend in a good sector, and then I am selling some good covered calls, 7 to 10% out of the money, to collect some extra earnings almost every single month. So that is just a little thing I've had some questions about if I ever use options, and I absolutely do, and I love the option strategies. In Denmark, however, the prices for the options trades is a bit steep, so if you have a smaller account, it can pretty much eat all of your profits from selling the calls. But I'll get more into options. It is an area I'm doing a lot of, but I haven't mentioned it too much on the channel here because I'm not really sure how many are interested in it. But please, if you're listening to this video and you are interested in hearing more about my option plays and what options is, then please comment in the section below. I would like to see if there is some interest there. All right, that's all for now. That was 8 candidates. And if you haven't done already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button down there if you like the video. Pretty much hit all the buttons down there you can find. Take care of yourself and your money out there. I'll talk to you again soon.